Hi, I'm Ray Hagar, subbing for Sam Shad, and welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. Today's guest is Fred Lokken. He's a Truckee Meadows Community College political science professor and one of the top political analysts in Nevada. And that's for the whole show coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
All systems check. All right, Sam, let's go check out some D&D roof.
Hey, Ken. From up here, you can really tell the difference a quality D&D roof makes.
You're right, Sam. With our experience, knowledge, and staff, nothing compares to a D&D roof.
Hey, look down there. It's our D&D roofing crew.
I'll bank the plane so we can get a closer look. Sam! You watch your company's bottom line, and I'll cover the top of it.
Nearly 200,000 Nevadans work in retail businesses, supporting families and the community. Nevada's retail businesses generated over $2 billion in sales tax revenue in 1 year, including nearly $700 million to help our schools. Shop around and see all that Nevada's retailers offer our state.
We're the Retail Association of Nevada, representing thousands of Nevada businesses.
Businesses that work for Nevada.
I'm Jonathan Scott from Property Brothers. I've demoed a lot of homes, and today I'm knocking down NV Energy's No on 3 campaign lies. The Gwynn Center report says it's not deregulation. California doesn't actually have energy choice. Studies show competition drives rates down. NV Energy's entire No on 3 campaign is a pile of rubble. Ask yourself, why would NV Energy spend $63 million to prevent competition? Nobody's paying me to say this. I'm Nevadan, and question 3 is about our right to choose cheaper, cleaner energy.
Nevada knows Dean Heller lies about protecting our health care. Here's the newest one.
I have not supported, will not support legislation that does weaken Medicare.
8 months later, Dean Heller voted to cut Medicare by nearly $500 billion. And now Dean Heller's party bosses admitted there's a plan to cut Medicare even further. Dean Heller's caved to them before, and he'll cave this time too. Because Dean Heller still puts his political party over your health care. SMP's responsible for the content of this ad.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Hi, welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. Our guest today is Fred Lokken. He's a political science professor at Truckee Meadows Community College and one of the top go-to people that the media calls up every time they need some information about politics. Welcome to you, Fred.
Thank you, Ray.
You know, in the John Ralston's blog in the Nevada Independent, he talks about voter registration and early voting. And in early voting, as of the first week, the Democrats held an 11,500 advantage over Republicans of the people who went out to vote. Now, we don't know how they voted, but we know we can break it down by party. That's a 3% lead over the Republicans, and I'm just wondering, do you think that Nevada will have a red wave or a blue wave or no wave? How do these numbers break down for you?
Well, in terms of the wave issue, I'm afraid the Democrats have a self-inflicted wound called the Kavanaugh hearings that seemed to suck all of the energy out of any wave they had started building since January. If you've been watching those numbers, it's the off-cycle election. The party that is not in power in this country has always stood an excellent chance of besting the party that is in power. So it started at a good spot. Had its talking points out there from the very get-go, which basically have been healthcare. Healthcare is working for 75% of Americans as a voting issue. That's huge. And so they stayed on target with that issue of sort of distinguishing themselves from the Republicans, which is something that has been missing in elections in America in recent cycles. And then they had the Kavanaugh hearing. So that basically brought this down to a close election. That still means that the Democrats are trending to take the House of Representatives. And here in the state of Nevada, I wandered out on a limb in 2016 after that election when Hillary Clinton carried Washoe County and said that based on our demographics and trends that we are leaving the purple column and heading for the blue column. So my expectation is that 2018 will augment that prognostication in recognizing that the Democrats should have a pretty good year here in the state of Nevada in terms of the state elections. They've been the better organized of the two parties. They certainly are well-financed now. Rosen is still out tracking Heller. That's a race where I understand Heller is currently ahead, but the Democrats are not for want of money any longer in the state. And they, in essence, are running a better campaign. The old Reed machine is still in place, and the voter registrations are fantastic in Clark County. Now the Democratic strategy is you can carry Clark County and be close in Washoe County, you can carry the state.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that too, because we've spoken on this show about seemingly lack of campaigning by Democrats in rural Nevada. Now, I know rural Nevada is heavy Republican, but there's still some, votes out there to scour for the Democrats. Do you think that the Democrats are making a mistake, maybe not getting to the rurals more and staying in, I guess, voter-rich Clark County more?
Well, it's a matter of where do you put the resources, because regardless of how well you're doing, they're invariably not as much money as you would like. We have our own little laboratory called the 2nd Congressional District that was designed to be a Republican district, has always been a Republican district. And the Democrats have always struggled with whether or not they should put any energy into races in that district because the outcome is pretty much a foregone conclusion. The same is true of those Republican districts. I often speak down in Douglas County to the Democratic Party down there, and I've joked about, everybody's in the room. There aren't that many Democrats that are wandering around in those rural counties. They understand it. They accept the realities of where they're living. They're going to vote Democrat until the day they die. So they've got that vote that exists out there. Persuading Republicans to switch parties is a hard thing to do. And so I think they are literally going to where their demographic tells them they can in fact convert a lot of nonpartisans. Nonpartisans aren't residing in the rural counties. They're residing in Clark and Washoe.
Well, speaking of nonpartisans, that is a big, maybe almost 20% of the registered voters in Congressional District 3, which we have a tight race between Republican Danny Tarkanian and Democrat Susie Lee. How do you see that one turning out, Fred? What would be your prediction?
Well, we're really watching. I guess the Horsford race is extremely close with Hardy as well. Those are fascinating indicators for us of whether or not we are dealing with something of a wave of the Democratic Party this year. Currently, based on things that we're seeing, I'm expecting, although they're close, that Lee stands a chance of winning that one and Horsford of regaining his seat. That's critical in terms of when you start looking at the numbers in Washington. It's also critical for the Democratic Party as it solidifies or galvanizes what will be its control of the state. We're expecting a similar performance in the state assembly, where I suspect the Democrats do extremely well. And we're actually seeing that the Democrats might be able to retake a number of the constitutional offices. The other thing with Tarkanian is he's a fantastic primary candidate and usually does not perform well in the fall elections. It is an incredible gift to Dean Heller that he was pulled from the Senate race and put down there. But I don't know that he's going to fare that much better in that race.
Okay, let's stop it right here. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. We'll be right back after these few messages with Fred Lokken, political science professor at Truckee Meadows Community College.
How do you shed some light on a better economy? Start with growth inspired by Valley Electric Association. We're a member-owned power company that puts Nevada first, and we're doing big things, like providing prosperity by securing renewable energy projects. For Nevada, that means more jobs and more opportunities, all for a strong statewide economy. In other words, together, we're doing powerful things. Visit us at vea.coop to learn more.
Hi, I'm Eric Robnett, owner of Home Energy Experts. Has this ever happened to you?
Honey, did you remember to turn down the thermostat?
Forgetting to set the temperature? Not fun. We can help. Our new smart thermostat keeps the temperature set for your comfort all by itself.
I'm feeling hot now.
To increase your comfort, go to homeenergyexperts.com for details. That's homeenergyexperts.com.
The company Wes Duncan keeps tells a frightening story. Sheriff Gerald Antenero accused of sexual assault. Craig Estey, admitted to domestic violence after lying to legal authorities. Nevada Right to Life committed to overturning Roe v. Wade. High-priced lobbyists putting insurance companies before us. Abusers, influence peddlers, and extremists don't belong anywhere near our Attorney General's office. With friends like these, West Duncan can't represent people like us.
At first, I thought we were in love, but then the abuse started. The worst literally almost killed me. When charges were pressed, I had no idea how confusing the legal process could be. But having equal rights to my abuser would have helped me in my understanding of what was happening in my case.
It's a story that happens too often in Nevada, but we can fix it. Question 1 will ensure crime victims are informed,
giving victims the right to notification and a voice in the process. Crime victims deserve equal rights.
Vote yes on Question 1.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Hi, welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. Our guest today, of course, is Fred Lokken. He's a professor of political science at Truckee Meadows Community College and one of the go-to people for politics in this state. Fred, you mentioned Tarkanian and Heller. In case our viewers and listeners don't know, is that Danny Tarkanian was originally running against Dean Heller for the U.S. Senate, but after a request by President Trump, he moved over to the CD3 race, Congressional District 3, and gave Heller a free pass in the primary. But you know, that primary, that would have been a rough and tumble kind of affair. Do you think that if Tarkanian did not move to the congressional race, he could have defeated Dean Heller in a Republican primary for the U.S. Senate?
I do. I think that he stood an excellent chance, and I know that the Heller campaign knew that this was a serious threat. Dean Heller came back to us not as a strong incumbent in this race, but with a lot of baggage based on things that had happened in Washington, D.C. Tarkanian had been organizing for months, as any good candidate does, starting in the fall of 2017 in that election, and was doing a great job of fundraising. Everything was suggesting an incredible pair-up, with Heller as the incumbent being, in my view, the underdog in that primary race. What bothered me was the president's intervention in Nevada politics. And I feel that even now there are some who will be casting their ballots based on a feeling that the president had no right to interfere, much less to redirect Tarkanian's campaign. He had made that choice. He had decided he was going to challenge the sitting incumbent. What may have been good for Donald Trump's brand of politics, I think was ultimately bad for the Republican Party of Nevada. We should have been allowed our independence and allowed this matchup. But regardless, much as we saw with Dean Heller when he first ran for the House and wound up almost losing to Jill Derby in that fall election, he was in a brutal primary that year as well. It drains resources, it exhausts your staff, and it really wears down on your enthusiasm and energy for the fall campaign. He was facing that, and he was spared that by that almost deus ex machina intervention by Trump. But then for Tarkanian, it looks equally foolish, because here he had designated the race he was seeking, and all of a sudden he's, okay, sure, I'll go and I'll run in this 3rd district race instead. So I think that has put him across as rather disingenuous to the voters down there as well, and so it put Tarkanian in a bad spot. Helped Heller, but it's remained a close race for Heller.
But Tarkanian was really acting or reacting on the President of the United States' tweet or request that perhaps he moved to the CD3 race. What do you think the Trump effect in Nevada will be? Do you think it'll have the president will have a positive effect and help the Republicans, or will he be a negative and help the Democrats?
Well, I think it's a mixed bag. I think that in many ways he's the Jim Gibbons of the state of Nevada from a presidential point of view. And Trump has the way of rubbing a number of Republicans the wrong way. He wipes away any moderate vote. I think the major impact from Trump is in the nonpartisans. Many of those are Republican refugees. And as such, they will not vote for a Trump-leaning candidate or a Trump-like party. If he had moderated his views or stayed out of the politics, I think that more of the nonpartisans might have been willing to cross over. But what they're dealing with is a very conservative gubernatorial candidate, Certainly, Heller has pushed himself much farther right than he historically has. He's been a moderate, in my view, for most of his political career. So the Trump effect has been to force the Republican Party in the state to move farther right. That plays well in the rural counties, but I think it's going to hurt him in the urban counties.
Okay, little prediction here. Do you think Danny Tarkanian will still garner enough votes in a very tight race with Democrat Susie Lee for CD3?
Well, I would describe them both as sort of B-string candidates. We have a lot of that in Nevada politics this year. And so the enthusiasm that this is the best person for the job just isn't there when you go to the ballot box. Lee's inexperience, I think, works against her, but Tarkanian doesn't have that experience either. I haven't followed the ins and outs of the campaign closely, but I think the blue wave that could be operating in Clark County with the sizable registration advantage for voter speaks in favor of Lee and for most Democrats in Clark County this time.
Okay, in the Senate race against Heller, we have, of course, the Democrat is Jackie Rosen. When you look at it historically, she doesn't seem like the strongest of candidates. One term in the U.S. House of Representatives. How do you see that playing out?
Well, that has been problematic. I mean, the experience factor is there. I find it, you do it for politics, but Dean Heller, it wasn't so many years ago, was in the exact same situation, running for office with not a whole lot of experience or success in Washington. We know that the House has a rule that you don't get to do much in your first term, and that's Jackie's reality. She's doing as much as she can. But it's going to be a close race. I think Rosen could pull it out with the blue wave.
Okay, do you think the Democrats would have been better to go with Dina Titus, Democratic Congresswoman from CD1, to Dina Titus against Dean Heller? Do you think they'd have a stronger candidate?
Well, this is where we perhaps have the hand of Harry Reid still in Democratic politics in the state, who had persuaded Dina not to do this. Dina is our longest serving. She's our dean, if you will, of the delegation. Building up that momentum, if you will, of terms in the House that will put her into key leadership roles very quickly. To give all of that up and risk the run against a sitting incumbent, I think there was a common sense factor that frustrated Dina at the time. But I think it's in Dina's career interest and in the best benefits of the state of Nevada that we have someone who has some terms behind them serving in the House of Representatives, especially if it goes blue.
Okay, I want to talk to you about the assembly races, other legislative issues in the next segment. We'll be right back for another session with Fred Lokken right after these few messages.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. And a lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
Award-winning conservation and clean energy advocate David Bobzien speaks out on question 3.
It's bad enough that this deeply flawed electricity deregulation measure would increase electric rates. In addition, 3 would shut down plans for solar power projects designed to double our state's clean energy production. It would also encourage increased use of imported electricity from out-of-state fossil fuel plants. Question 3 is wrong for the environment and wrong for consumers. Please vote no. Thank you.
This November, some questions are complicated, but the formula for clean energy is simple. It's question 6. Right now, Nevada gets only 20% of our electricity from renewable sources like solar and wind. Question 6 will raise that to 50% by 2030, creating more good jobs and cleaner air. Yes on 6 is simply the only way to guarantee more clean energy.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. Our guest is political science professor Fred Lokken. Fred, I wanted to get to maybe the legislative races. And in the legislature, of course, we have two houses, the Assembly and the Senate. Do you feel that the Democrats have a shot for a 2/3 majority in both or either of the houses, which of course would, 2/3 majority would be a veto-proof body, considering we may have a Republican governor?
Well, that's it. Actually, for a very long time, since the end of the last election, it's been looking very good for the Democrats in this election. And at the level of the state assembly, there hasn't been anything to me that discourages me from thinking that they might get to the magic 2/3 with the races the way they're going. That would be very important because of the 2/3 requirement. The state Senate, much like the U.S. Senate, much harder, just because those seats are gerrymandered very effectively. And it has been a very divided Senate for much of our political observations. So they could pick up an additional seat, but it would be much harder to do past that. So the Democrats stand a good chance of picking up seats in the state assembly, certainly holding the ground they have in the state Senate, or maybe picking up a seat there.
Okay, I want to talk about the governor's race. Of course, it's Democrat Steve Sisolak against Republican Adam Laxalt. It's neck and neck in the polls. How do you see this turning out?
Well, I think for us in northern Nevada, we're beginning to realize what politics is going to look like. These races, the U.S. Senate race, the governor's race, and even the constitutional races, are being conducted mostly in Clark County. We see the candidates, but not nearly as much as we used to.
Yeah, right.
And everything's being done by autopilot through advertising, which we are so bombarded by the ads that hopefully everybody stopped watching those. They're negative, they're lying on both sides, it's terrible. So in this sense, it's looking, I think, strong for Sisolak in the sense of his base in Clark County. Laxalt has not been in the state very long. There are controversies about his associations with Adelson, and ads have suggested that there may be some irregularities in his role as Attorney General. But more specifically, he had no strong connection to the state until he was brought in to run for Attorney General. And now this. He's basically being financed almost entirely from outside the state of Nevada. And I think for Nevadans that pay attention, there's just something that seems uncomfortable. Sisolak is a homegrown politician, and of course, as chair of Clark County, he's managed a budget that's larger than the state of Nevada's, and so he comes with the experience that one would look at. It's been a harder sell for him here in the northern part of the state because he's an unknown, but Democrats certainly know what they have in Clark County, and I think he's, sadly, still hasn't gotten the Chris G endorsement, if I understand. That doesn't help. That suggests the Democratic Party that has divisions that will need to be addressed. But I don't sense the enthusiasm around Laxalt by the Republicans either.
No, really. I thought that everybody, all the Republicans were rallying around Laxalt. You don't see that?
Well, he's missing the most important Republican in Governor Sandoval,
right.
Which is just a screaming volume. And with some outstanding reporting by you several weeks ago, pointing out that even out at Trick, you have major business people, lifetime Republicans, not willing to support Laxalt either. Those are things that are chinks in the armor and basically call into question the depth and validity of support within the party. He's raised enough money, but it's been coming from outside the state. And again, if there is any kind of a blue wave, at least a blue ripple, the strength of the Democrats in Clark County could carry Sisolak into the governorship.
Well, you know, the one criticism I would have about Adam Laxalt, he's got a great family name, but he doesn't have a lot of experience. 2 years as the Attorney General, and that's it. Really is it, but Susie Lee doesn't have the experience. Jackie Rosen has about much experience as Adam Laxalt. So do Nevadans care about experience in their politicians?
Well, we've been told during this election that a lot of people are kind of happy that there are outsiders coming into politics, that the draining the swamp sort of thing does require taking a number of these incumbents out if you're going to have an effective impact on government. But I think people also realize that the experience has to be relevant, and there are a number of these people, whether it's Rosen, Lee, or Laxalt, that don't seem to have the great fit. They seem to be running ahead of their time. Timing is everything in politics, and that's something that I think can be effectively used in a campaign, and to some extent we've seen it in all three of those campaigns.
Okay, the Attorney General's race I want to talk about. It's Republican Wes Duncan, who is like the successor to Adam Laxalt. You know, he worked for Laxalt. Then you have the Democrat Aaron Ford, Senate Majority Leader. I haven't, frankly, heard a lot from the Senate Majority Leader up north. Do you think he can beat Wes Duncan?
Well, that's a very good question. I would say if we have a ticket phenomenon, a blue wave, then he would benefit from the down ticket voting of those voting straight Democrat, and that could pull him forward. Both campaigns have been ineffective, in my view. Neither has made the case as to why they should be an Attorney General, in my view. Each has had their own controversy that has really, I think, diminished their credibility and reputation. This is a year of this where we have like second string candidates in some sense, people who are kind of ahead of their game of when they should be running for this, but this is when the seat became available. They've got to take their jump for it, but they're held accountable for the lack of experience then that they have.
Okay, Fred, we got to end it right there. Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. We'll be right back to wrap up Nevada Newsmakers right after these few messages.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
St. Ives Florist, for every holiday and every special occasion. For romance. Custom home design. We have the largest selection of fresh flowers in northern Nevada. And we also offer a large selection of unique gift items. Come see me, Lori Ann, at St. Ives Florist, 700 South Wells Avenue, or call me at 333-9190.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Hey, thanks for watching today. Remember, you can watch all the Nevada Newsmakers broadcasts on nevadanewsmakers.com. You can also download all the podcasts. Thank you.